Hello everyone, today I would like to teach you all how to sketch the sine graph. So this is 2 sine x, the amplitude is 2. If I change to 1, you can see the maximum point now is at 90 degree 1. The 1 and negative 1 is actually showing the range of the sine graph. So if 1 plus with the negative 1, you will get 0, but the magnitude is 2. That means you take 1 plus 1, the magnitude, then you divide by 2. So that is called amplitude. Amplitude is 1. So I'm going to change the amplitude to a smaller value, which is 0.5. As you can see, this point is 90 degree and 0.5. So when we talk about amplitude, we will look at the y value. I can increase to 2.5. This is the amplitude of graph 2.5 sine x, whereby the amplitude is 2.5. So the amplitude is always positive because it is a magnitude. It is the length from the maximum point to the original x-axis. Alright, so it's always positive for the magnitude. If I change to negative I make it negative, the magnitude is still 2.5. Even though it's the negative 2.5 sine x, but the magnitude is, as I say, is a magnitude, so it should be positive 2.5, right? So I'm going to increase it to, let's say, 3. So I'm going to increase to 3, and okay, let me change 3. Function is sine x. So you will see the maximum point is at 3, and the lowest value for the trigo function is negative 3. So I have explained changes of the amplitude. Now I would like to explain the changes of the frequency, or we say number of the cycle. So let's say if I type 2, you will see there is 2 cycle of the sine graph, or we say as 2 oscillation. So sine 2x, the 2 in front of the x, it shows that how many cycle of the trigo graph, of the sine graph. If I change to 3, it will be like this, 3 sine. The 3 will be 3 cycle of the sine graph. So the frequency is 3, we can say that. And how to find the period? The period for sine and cosine graph is you use 360 degree divided by the number of the cycle, or number of frequency. So if I look at that, one complete cycle is actually happen at this one, which is 120. So the period is 120. Another 120, you have another sine graph appear, second one. So every 120, it will repeat the one cycle of the sine graph. So until 360, you have another cycle. There are 3 cycles, or we say as the frequency is 3, but the period is 360 divided by 3, which is 120 degree. Meaning that every 120 degree, there will be one complete cycle of the sine graph appear. Got it? This is the meaning of the period. Okay, let's say I change to amplitude, I change. The period still remain the same. It's still 120, it's still 240, and 360. Every 120, there will be one sine graph appear. So changing the amplitude, it won't change the period, right? Okay, so if I change the frequency to 0.5, let's say, So you can see that there's only half cycle of the sine graph appear, isn't it? So I can change the amplitude, it's still half, right? So in this case, the period is 360 divided by half. So you will have the answer which is very big, 720. That means when the angle is 720, you will see one complete cycle of the sine graph. This is the period for the 2 sine 0.5x. Got it? Okay, so I have teach you about the period, the number of cycle, the frequency, and also the amplitude for the sine graph. Now I will actually change to cosine and tangent. Let's see this one. I'm going to change to, okay, let's say we have 2x here. So if 2x, you will see 2 repetition until 360, right? So let me show you. Your graph will be, you have 2 cycles. So the amplitude is 2, the number of the oscillation is 2, the frequency is 2, okay, and then the period is 180 degrees, right? Period. Alright, so we change to cosine. If it is cosine, how? Okay, the cosine, one complete cycle is like this. If I am going to have one complete cycle, it's like this. So if I make it 2, you will have 2 complete cycle. So in this case, the period is still 180 and the amplitude is 2. If I change to 3, you will have the 3 cycle and the period now is 360 divided by 3. So it's 120, right? So this is the amplitude. I can change the amplitude to maybe 0.5. You have a smaller amplitude. Okay, so that is the meaning, but the period is still the same, 120, 240, and 360, meaning that every 120 degree, you will see one complete cosine graph appear. So the period is 120. All right. So I'm going to change to tangent now. For tangent, I cannot use too many cycle. I just use 2. Okay. Here I will use a function tangent. You can see there are 2 cycles. One complete cycle is 180 degree. Another cycle repeat at 360 degree. So that means the period is 180 degree, and the amplitude here we don't have for tangent. We don't have amplitude for tangent because there is no maximum or there is no minimum. Even I can give you 3, I can give you 2, you still cannot find the maximum or minimum value for the tangent graph, right? Okay, so if I change to tangent x, so the number of the frequency is 1, the period is 360, right? Okay, there is no amplitude for the tangent graph. We will have the undefined value for 90, whereby tangent 90 we don't have value. If let's say I type 90 here, you will see there is no answer, undefined. All right. So we actually want to very sure about the amplitude, the period, and the frequency, or we call it number of the oscillation, number of cycle of the graph for tangent, for sine, and for cos. So I hope my sharing do help you to understand what it means by period, what it means by range, what it means by the amplitude, and also the shape of the graph you need to memorize. Another thing is I need to teach you is we are going to translate the graph, and then I'm going to shift up or shift down the graph. I'm going to shift up one step. Look at here, the intercept or y-intercept is 0, 1. right? So let's call translation. So the y-intercept of the sine graph is 1. That if there is a c here, 1, so I can plus the negative value, which is minus 1. So it will actually go down to the negative 1. Shift down the graph to one step down from the x-axis. So it will intersect at 0, negative 1, which is called as y-intercept, right?